Greetings viewers, if you click the video link, you already know what we're here for, so let's jump right into it. Today we are talking about the Trijicon RCR. They are first offering in a closed emitter reflex sight. As usual, we're going to do an unboxing. There's not much to it, so that should be quick. And then we're going to jump into it, look at some of the features, we're going to look at the functions of it, going to show you how to mount it on a pistol, and then we're going to take it out and rock and roll. The only other option that I have that's a kind of higher quality, similar optic is my ACRO P2, so I'll probably do some comparisons with that. Trijicon and Aimpoint are two of the top desired manufacturers and a little bit more expensive offerings, so I feel like it's kind of more of an apples to apples comparison than a solar-powered Chinese optic. So let's go ahead and unbox this thing and then talk about it. All right, so first of all, the RCR comes in this nice little box that if you are familiar with Trijicon and any of their other products, this is what it's going to look like for the most part. We've got this little latch here that you pop open, and the unit is just kind of loose floating around in here with this egg crate foam. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that later, because obviously we'll do that in the rest of the video. If we pull the bottom section of foam out, we've got some stuff in here to include the instruction manual. We've got a little kind of tiny bottle of Loctite. It's pretty much just one of those once and done. You snap the end off to use it for mounting, and then you throw this thing away. We've got the bag that's got our Allen wrench and the screws that we're going to use to mount it to the pistol. As usual, we've got the Trijicon sticker. So they include this. This is unique for the mounting system for the RCR. You are going to need this little card to attach it if you're going to do it the recommended way. So do not look at this and think it's junk and throw it out. Hold on to that. You're going to need it later. This is just a warning for batteries, basically saying that kids like to eat. Basically just saying that kids like to eat batteries, so keep them out of their hands. Just a kind of little fold-out pamphlet showing you some of Trijicon's other products that they want you to purchase. And then just again, another register your product, thanks for buying kind of thing. And that's it. So let's go ahead and jump back into the optic. That's what you're here for, right? All right, so now that you've seen what comes in the box, let's go ahead and look at this thing and talk about it and see what it is. So again, this is a closed emitter pistol optic that uses the RMR footprint. So anything that is advertised to accept an RMR, you can mount this to it. Again, it does have a little bit of an unorthodox mounting situation because you can't just screw straight down through it like you can the back of the RMR where it's open. Essentially all this is an RMR that has a second window in the back, and then it's kind of enclosed so that way your emitter is sealed. It's not going to get affected by dust, rain, any sort of water, blood, whatever getting in there. It's just going to be on the outside of the housing or the glass and not affect your dot. So like I said, I was going to compare it to the ACRO a little bit in a couple different respects. So the first one you notice is the front window on the RCR. The ACRO actually has two pieces of glass. So it has that one that's the optic itself, and then it has what they call a sacrificial piece of glass in the front. So if we take a look at that, you should be able to see it kind of in the reflection. You've got that colored piece of glass down in there that's angled back here, but then at the front of the optic, it's just got a straight up and down single clear piece of glass. Now, some people may think that's super significant. I don't think it is, because to be honest, if I'm racking my pistol off of something and I smash a little too hard and break that glass, or some frag or spalling, or it even takes a round and that glass gets hit, regardless if it's a sacrificial piece of glass or it's this only piece of glass on here, your optic's still screwed. You're going to have to get it repaired one way or the other. And chances are you're going to have a real hard time seeing your dot either way with shattered, broken, cracked glass. So I don't know that that's super significant. Maybe it is to you. It's nice to have that peace of mind. Nothing wrong with that. The buttons on this thing are super huge and very tactile, and you know when you're pressing this thing, you've got your plus on the left side and your minus on the right-hand side. They pretty much take up the whole side of this thing, so it's kind of hard to not actually be able to get it. Again, if you have gloves on your hands, you're feeling around in the dark, you have no questions about if you're on the button, and you can feel and tell when you've pressed it or not. As opposed to the ACRO here, we've got two small, tiny, I don't even know what you would call these. It's kind of like a waxy plastic covering over the top. They're very small. There's kind of a little dimpled divider in the middle. Plus is on top, minus / off is on the bottom. You could have trouble if you have gloves on. You may not be able to actually feel it. You may be kind of fumbling around. You're turning it down instead of up, or up instead of down, whatever you're not wanting to do. So I would say maybe that could be one negative against the ACRO versus the RCR. Maybe it doesn't bother you at all. Just a little bit less peace of mind in terms of hitting the right button when you need to, especially if time is of the essence. So you can see they both use the same type of battery. The ACRO loads on the side, the RCR loads on the top. Nothing significant there. We've got our elevation dial on the back here, facing up. Our windage knob is on the right-hand side. This little dial right here that you turn for that. So in terms of weight, if we throw this on the scale, we put this on the scale, it comes in at 1.9 ounces. Unfortunately, I'm not going to unmount my ACRO to weigh it. The advertised weight from Aimpoint on their website, who is the manufacturer of this thing, says it's 2.1 ounces. I understand ounces equal pounds, pounds equal pain, but I really don't think that 0.2 ounces is really going to make a difference on your pistol. Maybe it is to you if you have some sort of issues with a compensator and how much weight you're putting on your slide, reciprocating back and forth. That could be significant, so there's something that you now know. All right, so some of the specs on this thing. So it is advertised as having 56,000 hours, which is 6.4 years of continuous use at setting number 5. There are 10 total settings on this thing. 3 of them are night vision capable and 7 of them are visible. All right, so obviously I don't know where you're going to use setting 10. You're going to burn your retina out if you're looking directly and shooting at the sun. I guess maybe you might need it that bright. Trying to hold this thing steady so you can see the dot. Looking in the viewfinder, I'm not really sure that it's the exact same thing that you're actually going to see, but you just press the minus button to get it to go dimmer, the plus button to get it to go up. All right, so in terms of operation of this thing, I've had some time to mess with it, and it appears that the printed instructions inside the booklet are wrong. So again, we have our plus and we have our minus. Once you are satisfied with the brightness level, if you want to lock that brightness setting in, you will hold the plus sign. So if this is the brightness setting I want, and I want to make sure it doesn't get bumped and changed, I'm holding it. And you see the dot blink, indicating that it has accepted your selection. So now, if I accidentally bump my minus button, if I accidentally bump the plus button, nothing is happening. Instead, if I want to change it now and say, okay, that's not the right setting, or I just want to turn that off. All right, so I will press and hold the plus and minus button at the same time, and I should be able to now change my brightness setting. And then to turn it off, I just press and hold my plus and minus button and just continue to hold it. And then it'll turn off. So the dot that is on this thing is a 3.25 MOA. The dot that is on the ACRO P2 is a 3.5 MOA, so just a 0.25 difference. I don't know that my eyes would be able to discern a difference. They both look pretty similar to me. Many years ago, the Navy blessed me with some PRK corrective eye surgery, and ever since then, any of the dots that I look at, especially on optics like this, it looks like a little starburst. When I see what they look like through the viewfinder on the video, it looks nothing like that to my eyes. Maybe to your eyes it's a little bit different, or you have the same issue I have. All these things look like a little starburst to me. So what I perceive the dot as is definitely going to be different than what you or what anybody else perceives. So I know the Trijicon RMR HD has a 1 MOA dot. Now I can tell you that would probably be a significant difference that your eyes could definitely tell between this dot and that dot, because that one's definitely going to be a little bit more precise. I would have liked that to be an offering in this particular optic, especially they came out at the same time. You would have thought they'd integrated it in here. They didn't. But, oh well. So anyway, we've talked about the features. I don't think I missed anything. If you think I did, you can just leave me a comment down below and I'll do my best to answer your question. So the only thing that we have left to do now is to talk about mounting this thing, which again is a little unique. And like I said when we unboxed it, you need that little card to do it because it is kind of funky. So let's switch things up here and get into doing that. All right, so when it comes to mounting this thing to your pistol, the instructions are less than stellar. Basically, all it says in here is use the hex key and refer to the torque graphic, which that's what this little card was I said that you don't want to get rid of. There's a QR code you can scan here. If you scan it, all it does is it takes you to the product information page on their website, so still not much help in terms of installation. So how are we going to install this thing? Well, first of all, we are installing it on the slide for my Canik TTI Combat, like I stated in the video last week where I did the review of this pistol. It does come provided with a plastic mounting plate. Again, not sure how I feel about that. I'm assuming they wouldn't provide it if it wasn't worthwhile. So this is going to go on here. I'm going to put that on, make sure it's nice and snug. The holes line up with the holes here where I need it to go, so I know that works. There are 2 different size screws included. one set of the screws is a lot longer than the other. However, the thread pitch is different, and I would like to use the longer screws so I have a more positive mating surface here, but unfortunately that's not going to work. So what I would recommend doing before you even do anything else, don't even put the plate on there, find the screws that you want to use or you think you're going to use and put them in where the holes go, where you're going to be mounting it, and actually try to thread them by hand and make sure they go. If they get stuck, if they're not going anywhere, something may be wrong, and it's better that you find that out now and can deal with it here than trying to finagle with this thing the way that this mounts. It can be kind of a pain. So again, test your screws first, make sure they work, and those are good to go. You do have a couple options when it comes to mounting this thing. They really only have two. So one of the ways that you can do it, because the way that the cutout is in the side of this optic, the screw heads have these little holes in them, and they just kind of go in there, and then you use those holes and the provided Allen wrench to kind of go in there, get inside the hole of the screw, and turn it, and turn it. So it's very tedious to do this. So one of the ways that you can do it, depending on if the screw length is the right size and it'll work with your pistol, is you can just barely start one of these screws. Just get it in there and get like half of the first thread started so that it's in the hole and it's standing up. And then, because this is where that's going to mount and slide on that way, take the screw for the opposite side, drop it down into the recess for it, put your finger over it to keep it from popping out, and you can then slide the optic over the screw that's already mounted, as long as you can get it over the recoil lug. I've tried this a couple times and I cannot get this thing to go over the top of that, so this method is not going to work for me. So what I have to do is I have to drop both screws in, kind of capture them with my finger, make sure they're not going to fall out, and then just place it straight down on top and just make sure everything's lined up. It's lined up with the recoil lugs. It's in the slot where it's supposed to go. So, but we do need to put Loctite on these first, but I like to dry fit everything and make sure it's going to work first before I put Loctite on there and then realize I used the wrong screws and that the threads aren't matching up or it's cross-threaded or something's wrong. There is always a possibility of some quality control issues, so you'd rather, again, find that out before you have a snapped off screw and you're stuck and you can't really do anything. So we're going to use the provided Loctite that they gave us to mount this. I'll just come from the side here and make sure that I get a little dollop on the end of the screws. You just want to make sure you actually get it on the threads there. So we're going to set this aside. We're going to drop this straight down on top of the slide, like I said. Wiggle it, make sure it's not moving. And then what we're going to do is we need to use the end of our Allen wrench. I'm going to hold this down with my index finger. I'm going to pick up the slide. Then I need to insert this into the screw. And you don't have to insert it all the way at first. We're trying to get it started. So leave it standing straight up so gravity helps you. And just kind of grab the end of the hole where you can and just spin the screw. It should move freely. If it's stuck, back it up a little bit and get those threads to catch right, and then try turning it the correct direction again. So I would do a couple turns on one side, flip it to the other side, and work on that one. One side may spin a little bit more freely than the other. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn them until they get snug. We're not going to force them. We just want to make sure that we're to the point where it's actually seating the optic down to the pistol with the plate. So again, we're starting to get that resistance. I'm going to switch back to the other side. Got that resistance. Now this is the part where we need this card. The way it suggests that we've got this little tab on here, we are going to insert it into the notch, and then we are going to take our Allen wrench and we are going to find the nearest hole that's towards the back of the arrow. It may be different for you. So as you can see, that's where mine is sitting. And what they tell you to do is to push until you move 3 to 4 lines from where you start. So we're technically on the 4th line in right there. So we need to move it 1, 2, 3, at least 4 spaces. So again, the holes may be out. Your Allen wrench may be out here, so that's kind of important. You need to make sure you move 4 slots. Set this up so you can see it very well, but we're going to make sure that's nice and seated in there. We're going to come back here, and we are going to turn 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to stop. I'm not trying to snap the screw off. I'm not trying to snap the Allen wrench. So here we are, and then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And now, theoretically, per Trijicon's instructions, we should be mounted. I guess we'll find out when I shoot it and this thing comes flying off. So it is recommended per Loctite that you give this stuff 24 hours to cure. So once you've put it on there, don't immediately go outside and start shooting, because the whole point of using the Loctite is keeping the screws from backing out, so we don't want that to happen. So we're going to let this sit for 24 hours and then get to shooting. So I'm not sure that you can even tell the difference in the dot size on the camera and the viewfinder. It looks like it's displaying a little funky, but you can see again, the window size comparison is just slightly different, but again, it's kind of your mileage may vary. Your eyesight's different than mine, different than everybody else's, so you may prefer one over the other. The ACRO is a bit longer again, so you may feel like you may be feeling like you're getting a tube effect. I know some people complain about that with long optics like that. The other thing that I've noticed is that with the RCR, I am not able to co-witness my sights. They are just below the level of that bottom plate of the RCR, so I have suppressor height sights on the ACRO pistol here, so I can see those in the very bottom portion of the optic. Gonna have to probably get some different iron sights. I'm not a huge fan of running optics on a pistol without backup irons, because if that sighting system goes down for whatever reason, whether it gets damaged, the battery dies, something catastrophic happens to it, and I don't have a backup sighting system, that's not gonna be a great day for me. I wanna be able to know that I can see and aim properly at what I'm shooting at, so definitely need to get that figured out and find out what sights I'm going to replace these with so that I can use those in conjunction. But anyway, hopefully you found this video useful. Hopefully you learned something. If you were interested in this product, it definitely gets a recommendation from me. I do not have any issues with either of these two. So if you were wanting a enclosed emitter red dot sight, again, I'm not a huge proponent of hollow sun. I'm usually going to go with Trijicon or Aimpoint. In my opinion, both of these are very capable optics. They're both going to do the same thing. The Trijicon is going to run you a little bit more than the ACRO, I believe. This is 600 and this one's about 700. So again, if you have a brand preference or some other specific reason that you would pick one over the other, they both pretty much do exactly the same thing. We've gone over the features, we've gone over the mounting. Hopefully I covered everything. If you have any questions or there's something you feel like I didn't cover, please feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll be glad to get back to you, whether it's responding to your comment in a text form or making a whole separate video or short to answer your question. So anyway, I'll stop taking up your time. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.